Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Jake, and I'll be leading the service today. So welcome. I'm glad you're all here. The topic we're going to talk about today is Raja Yoga, which has been referred to as the royal path. And as soul travelers, which is a term that Norm used to call all of us, we have a challenging situation in trying to find answers to three basic questions. Some people start asking those questions very early on in life, and others might not even ask about it till their deathbed. But the questions are, who am I? Why am I here? And where am I going when I leave here? And there's a quote in the Bhagavad Gita, yoga is the journey of the self, through the self, to the self. And sitting here today in this beautiful building and on this wonderful piece of land, I can't help but appreciate Norm Paulson, who was the founder of Sunburst, and the journey that he made. And he started his journey asking those three questions at a very young age. I think he was 5, or 6, and he asked his grandma, did anybody ever see God? And Grandma said, yeah, Moses did. And that set the course for Norm, because if Moses saw God, then he could see God. So Norm's journey began having a fairly normal childhood and teenage years, and he ended up going to a friend's house in Los Angeles. And during his life, he had several visions of this face of a man with long hair and brown eyes. And he always wondered who that face was and why am I seeing it. And so he went into this house, and on the coffee table was autobiography of a yogi. And on the cover was this picture of Yogananda. And Norm was just, amazed. He just said, who is this? And where can I find him? And the fellow said, well, he's here in Los Angeles, up at Mount Washington, and he has churches in LA. You can see him this Sunday in the Hollywood Church. So Norm made the journey that Sunday to see Yogananda and attend the service. And he said the whole time he sat there, he felt like Yogananda was staring at him. And he felt this incredible energy emanating from Yogananda's eyes to Norm's eyes. And Norm was moved to tears, just sitting there. He felt such a bond with that soul. And afterwards, there was a patio off to the side, and Yogananda was out there greeting some guests. And he started to walk out towards the patio because he wanted to meet Yogananda. And an usher stopped him and said, I'm sorry, you have to make an appointment to talk to him. And just then, Yogananda looked through the doorway and saw Norm and waved him over. And looked at him and said, when can you come? And Norm said, I'll come real soon. And so he left, and packed a bag the next day and went up to Mount Washington. And obviously Yogananda's roots were Hindu, and those teachings go way, way back. I was reading where the child's game Chutes and Ladders was actually a game that was started in India like a long, long time ago called Snakes and Ladders. And it taught kids about virtue and temptations. And obviously when the Great Britain colonized India, they got a lot of information from them. So they brought that game in the 1800s to the UK and renamed it Chutes and Ladders. So that was kind of interesting when I read that. But we're lucky because we have a lot of ancient ones who have come before us, who have offered up a teaching that's a path, that's a way to find divine spirit. You have Buddha, you have Confucius, obviously Jesus and Muhammad. And soul travelers have connections with different teachers. And that's fine, because all the paths lead to the same end result, face-to-face with the divine spirit. And Sunburst started in 1969, which is really hard to believe looking back on how many years we've been together. And Norm left Yogananda's after being there about 5 years, and with Yogananda's blessing. And Yogananda told Norm on a couple occasions that he really would like to see a center in Santa Barbara area. And so Norm had to go through his trial for 20 years of earning a living and waiting for their timing to happen just right. And it wasn't until the 60s when the Great Awakening started happening around the planet, to the absurdity of some of the things that have been going on for decades. And the youth were interested in finding a better life, finding a more expansive life than just going to work, getting married, having kids, retiring and dying. And so there was this great mass search that started happening around the planet. We have Sibyl here in the audience who lived in Germany, and she made the trek here and has been here for forever. And we had a lot of visitors from Germany and England and Australia, all over the place over the years. And because Norm, obviously, because Yogananda's roots were Hindu, Norm adopted those himself. And when he left Yogananda's, he had the ultimate soul traveler experience. He had his cosmic conscious awakening. And you can read about that in the autobiography. It's very powerful. But to have to wait for 20 years until he could really start teaching and practicing what he had learned, I just can imagine how sometimes that might have been frustrating. So Yogananda always said that he taught Raja Yoga. And what he meant by that was, way back in India, Patanjali wrote the Yoga Sutras, which it's a vast work, but it had the 8 limbs of yoga. And someone asked Yogananda which branch of yoga he teaches. And he said, all of them are basically the same. Most of the branches are primarily devotional, rational, or active. They take the seeker by different paths, but their goal is the same, self-realization. We teach Raja Yoga, which takes parts of each branch and teach how to achieve inner communion with the divine. All the paths of yoga lead eventually to the one all-uniting river of Raja Yoga. So Raja Yoga, or the other branches of yoga, are all ways that we can answer our questions of who we are, why are we here, and where are we going when we leave here. And I can testify from experience that those answers do come as you step upon the spiritual path and develop a practice. And the beauty of having alternatives is that if you find that you're not really getting all you need out of one branch of yoga, you can try another. But I would suggest try Raja Yoga because it really embodies all the branches, and it really is the royal path. And here at Sunburst, obviously, we teach Raja Yoga, and there's an experience that Norm had. I don't think it's in the book, but it's coming out in the next book that we're working on. But roughly, I didn't want to go through the word for word, but roughly what happened, Norm was a visionary. He had just vision after vision and experiences, especially after his cosmic conscious experience. But he used to say that he would sit at Yogananda's Mount Washington and meditate, and he would have visions of young people in a room. And he said to us later on that a lot of the faces that came to Sunburst he recognized from those visions. So he had a vision where he found himself in Egypt, and he was standing in front of a great pyramid, and he asked Divine Spirit, where's the limestone facing on this pyramid? Because when the pyramids were built, they faced them with limestone. And Norm always said that the whole purpose of building pyramids that the ancient ones did was to help control the weather on the planet. But they had other functions also. They had great rooms inside, and different ceremonies were conducted there. But he said the main thing was it was built to harness the energy of the planet and the weather and make it habitable for everybody. So he found himself in front of this pyramid, and obviously it was later in years because the limestone facing was gone. And so he entered the great room, and there was this stone tablet in front of him, and there was an opening in the top of the pyramid, and the sun was starting to come to that opening. And when the sun hit that opening, it lit this symbol that was carved into the stone. And that became the Sunburst Mandala that we have. It's all over in the lodge, and it's in Life Love God, and we teach it in different classes. But basically, that symbol, that powerful symbol, it binds together all the 8 branches of yoga. It teaches us how to live our lives consciously each day, with 8 conscious living principles. And it teaches us about virtue and living a life for the greater good of all. As we go into our silent period, I wanted to read a quote from Yogananda. Prepare yourself for the coming astral journey of death by daily riding in the balloon of God perception. Meditate unceasingly so that you will behold yourself as the infinite essence, free from every form of misery. Cease being a prisoner of the body. Learn to escape into spirit. So I'll lead us in a few ohms as we go into a 15-minute silent period. when I look back on my life, I believe I was around 12 when I started asking myself those three questions. Who am I? Why am I here? And where am I going? And kept asking that question, and it was always in the back of my mind. I didn't feel like I was part of the crowd moving through life. I felt like I had a greater purpose, and something was out there, and I wasn't sure what. And in 1970, when I got out of the Army, I moved to New York City, and I started taking Hatha yoga classes in Manhattan. And at that time, there weren't a lot of yoga studios around. So I was very lucky to find that one. And at the end of the session, they would always have us meditate for a little while. And I had never meditated before, and so I started practicing that meditation when I wasn't even there, even when I was just back home again. And one Saturday afternoon, I was sitting in my bedroom and I was meditating, and again with these questions rattling around in my consciousness. And I had this vision of these incredible fields, green grass fields, and probably 60 or so brothers and sisters dancing in this field and having such a wonderful time and enjoying each other's company and celebrating life, celebrating Mother Earth. And it hit me that was where I was supposed to be. I had to find a community of people, of like-minded people, that I felt could answer those three questions for me. And it took a couple years, but I finally found Sunburst, and it's been an incredible journey. And I feel really moved today to really have us all express our thanks to all the ancient ones that have come before us, who have laid down various techniques, various paths that we could follow to find the answers to these questions. And I'm just so humbled by the efforts that they made and the journey that they did and the obstacles they overcame to help all of us achieve that inner awakening and that glorious conscious experience of seeing the divine face of our Father and Mother. So in closing, I'll read a little passage here. Beloved Lord, teach me to behold thy face in the mirror of my stillness within. Teach me to feel that thou art the sole activating power, and that in recognition of thee as the doer lies the value of all my life's experiences. Teach me to behold thee as the only friend, helping and encouraging me through my earthly friends. Amen.
Turning world in motion, set us into play. The same returns, release, restores us in our day. And in the frontmost part, my life I keep it sealed. In simple truth I am a wheel, fashioned on a wheel by hands that love to spin, hands that wove the earth to sky, hands that healed the sick and hands that set the stone, hands that rock the babe to sleep, and I know the cradle of my soul. How could this world lose sight of you? How could it ever let you out of view? From such a glorious start to such a tragic end, all I know through it all in my life, I want you back again. I know I'll find you, I know I'll see you, I long to meet you, I long to be in you. I know I'll find you, I know I'll see you, I long to meet you, I long to be in you. I could be there to swear the stream is not but a trickle from the rocks. You hear my buoyant laughter, soothing sounds of spilling waters. Lo, my streams become a river, and my joys will fill up oceans. I know I'll find you, I know I'll see you, I long to meet you, I long to be in you. I know I'll find you, I know I'll see you, I long to meet you, I long to be in you. I could be there in that place, the silent waiting, holding space, when your heart is asking about its next breath. I could be riding in that wind, I could be riding in that wind, I could be riding in that wind. I know I'll find you, I know I'll see you, I long to meet you, I long to be in you. I know I'll find you, I know I'll see you, I long to meet you, I long to be in you. turning whirling motion set us into play. The same returns release restores us in our day. And in the frontmost part my life I keep it sealed. In simple truth I am